All right, good evening. And this will be my first video for the Breaking Conservatarian blog and YouTube channel. So, a lot of you have been, watching the news about what happened with Ahmaud Arbery, who was killed on February 23rd. And you've probably seen a lot of my commentary on it, my articles on Red State and my rantings on Twitter. But I wanted to make this video for a few reasons. First, to really just outline the details of the case and to make sure that everybody knows exactly what the chronology is and what happened and the details that we have at our disposal today. I'm sure that there will be more that comes out in the days and weeks to come. But I would say the main reason I wanted to discuss this case is to really take a look at the conservative movement's response to what happened to Arbery. And I really want to focus on the response of the Black conservative establishment to the shooting, and also a lot of the lies and the myths and the stereotypes that are being peddled by a lot of the Sesame Streeters on the right. I want to address those and I want to debunk them. And so basically, I think it's important because the overall response from the conservative movement when it comes to the case was actually surprising to me. I mean, I expected that most people would be condemning the two men who carried out the murder, but it was even more so than I thought. I mean, the vast majority of people who I've interacted with online, people who have interacted with my articles, have been overwhelmingly in support of Arbery and condemning the police officers who killed him, or not the police officers, the two men that killed him, the former police officer and his son. So first, I would just want to give a shout out to conservatives in general. I mean, in my opinion, you guys came through. Yes, there are some loonies out there. There are people who have suspect motives because some people are just deceived, but a lot of these people are deliberately lying and they are deliberately trying to deceive you. And it's important to recognize that. And when you see it, call it out, because that way, the more it's called out, the fewer people they will deceive with what they're trying to do here. And their agenda is pretty clear. So first, I want to go through some of the details of the case and basically what happened here, and then I'll get into some of the other stuff. But I will be having drinks of water periodically because whenever I talk a lot, my throat gets dry and it's hard to talk. So you'll have to excuse me. I'll be doing my Marco Rubio thing. All right. So a lot of the chronology that I'm going to go over here, I'm going to try to condense it as much as possible, but it's going to come from an article that David French wrote on the subject. He's a pretty popular conservative commentator. He kind of goes way back. A lot of MAGA people don't like him because he's more of a never Trump type of person, but this isn't about Trump, so I don't care. So basically, the way it starts is on February 23rd, there was a person who called 911 to report that a black man in a white shirt had walked into a home that was under construction. And apparently there is some footage of this that has come out. We still don't know 100% that it was Arbery, but it could have been. So, but the thing is basically he walks into the house that's under construction, and a man calls 911 as the guy was coming out. And so basically, when he's on the phone with the dispatcher keeps asking him what's happening, and whoever this is that was calling wasn't really giving much information. So the dispatcher, for instance, asked, "You said somebody's breaking into it right now." Well, he didn't break into it because it was already open. It's a construction site. Nobody's living there. Nobody can live there. There's nothing there. It's basically the bones of the home at this point. So the man did tell the dispatcher that it is under construction. And basically, as he walks out, because this person, whether it was Arbery or not, was only in there for like less than 2 minutes. Like, we're not talking like he spent a lot of time there. He went in and came right back out. And so basically, the dispatcher asks him what was Arbery doing wrong. He was saying, "I'll get the police out there, but I just need to know what he was doing that was wrong. Was he just on the premises? and not supposed to be. And then I guess the next sentence is kind of garbled, so you couldn't really tell what the guy was saying. But he says he's been caught on camera a bunch at night. This has not been substantiated yet. It's kind of an ongoing thing. Again, this statement from the guy on the phone has not been substantiated yet. The man, let's see, he said, then he mentions that the guy who's building the house has heart issues. I'm assuming that he's just kind of rambling at this point. But if you notice, he doesn't really answer the question. He doesn't tell the dispatcher, yes, we've seen him do stuff wrong before. He just says, I don't know, he's been caught on camera, a bunch at night. That doesn't tell anybody anything. So that already kind of is suspect to me, because this basically sounds like a guy who maybe thinks that Arbery might have been up to no good, but can't really say that he actually did anything wrong. So it's kind of it's basically a non-answer to the question. It's the way a politician would answer a question if he got caught cheating on his wife with a hooker in Vegas. He's not going to answer it directly. He's going to talk around it. That's what this man is doing here. And so he basically indicates that this person, has gone running in the neighborhood again, basically. And it's been kind of established that Arbery was an avid jogger, and he would jog in neighborhoods quite a bit. So after this call, and I'm not sure if this is just a few minutes after, or if we're talking 15 minutes, or we don't have those details yet. But at some point after that call, Gregory McMichael, who was the elder McMichael, and the former detective or police officer, they allegedly saw him hauling ass down the street. And it's not, I don't think at that point if it was clear that McMichael also called the police, but it's been established that he saw Arbery running, jogging, whatever he was doing, and basically he went in the house and got his son, whose name is Travis McMichael. Now, a lot of what I'm talking about here, especially at this point, is not based on conjecture per se. It's based on what McMichael told the police when they were taking the report. So this is according to him. So when you hear people saying that we don't have a lot of information yet, well, no, we actually have information as to what happened up until that point. Now, there may be some areas where McMichael may not have been honest or whatever, but basically he's laying out the case up until the point that we see in the video. So basically, he had his son grab his shotgun, and he also grabbed his handgun, and then they started pursuing Arbery in their truck. Now, somewhere along the line, I don't know if they called this other guy over. The man who filmed the video was with them, and he was in his car behind Arbery. And so I'm not sure how much involvement he had in it other than that, but I'm not sure if he's even been arrested or is going to be arrested. But basically, these are three men chasing this man who was jogging. So basically, there was three men, two vehicles, and McMichael tells police that he tried to cut Arbery off on the road. They were trying to stop him from continuing to go. Now, at this point, I'm sure Arbery's pretty scared, especially if he did nothing wrong. I mean, he's got to be terrified at this point, or angry, or both. So he keeps trying to cut him off, but somehow Arbery's getting around the truck and still going. Now, pause real quick. If Arbery had just committed a burglary and stolen something, do you usually jog to the scene of the crime? I mean, if I'm going to rob somebody, I'm going to drive to the location and maybe park somewhere out of the way, but I'm not going to just jog all the way over there from another neighborhood. So that's already kind of a red flag here. Why would they even just assume that he was committing a burglary? He didn't have a bag. Dude's wearing shorts. I mean, what's he really going to take there? And usually if somebody's going to commit a burglary, they're not going to do it in a home that has nothing in it. That doesn't make any sense. But anyway, I digress. So they kept trying to cut him off, and he kept avoiding them. And so basically, McMichael also told police that there had been a rash of burglaries. Now, they did some, I think it was the Daily Mail or the Daily News, one of the Brunswick News. Okay. And what they did is they found that there had only been one burglary reported to the local police between January 1st and February 23rd. So I guess on the first of the year, somebody had stolen a 9mm from a pickup truck, or actually well, yeah, it was from a pickup truck outside of Mike McMichael's home. Now, this guy who owned this property, the house that was under construction, his name is Larry English, and he told the Daily Beast that somebody had stolen about $2,500 in fishing equipment from his property recently. It doesn't say that the exact date that it happened, but he says that he never reported it to the police. So basically, McMichael tells the police that to kind of give a reason as to why they were chasing him. So we all kind of know what happens after that. At some point, he manages to pull, Travis and Gregory manage to pull in front of Ahmaud, while this other guy is behind him. And in the video, you can see that he's kind of heading to the left side of the truck at first, but then he changes and goes to the right. And you can see that it's because they were trying to catch up with him. Basically, the son had gotten out of the truck, so he couldn't keep going to the left because he would have been caught by Travis. So he started going over to the right. Travis kind of comes around the hood of the truck, and he's got the shotgun at this point. Like, he's brandishing the shotgun. He's not like, unarmed and trying to say, hey, hold on a second, we just want to talk to you. He's got the shotgun. And as they were chasing him, they were saying, we just want to talk to you, stop. Well, nobody's going to stop if you have a gun and you're chasing. I mean, that'd be crazy. So at that point, that's when Arbery crosses over, goes to his left, and tries to grab the gun from Travis. And we already know what happened after that. So after the shooting occurred, it was given to District Attorney Jackie Johnson, and it has come out that two city officials are alleging that she shielded the McMichaels from arrest. So basically, law enforcement, according to these individuals, they were all ready to arrest them, which would be normal. If there's a shooting that happens, even if it is obvious that it was self-defense, you're still going to get arrested. Anybody who owns a gun and knows about the Second Amendment knows that. You're going to get arrested even if it was a clear-cut case of self-defense. But what happened is, if the allegations are true, Jackie Johnson's office basically told the police to step down and not to arrest them. Now, she ended up having to recuse herself a few days later because the older McMichael had worked for her office as an investigator. So after that, a second district attorney took over the case. His name was George Barnhill, who also had to recuse himself. But before he did this, he had written a letter, and I don't know who he wrote it to, but it was pretty obvious that this guy never intended on trying to prosecute them or even trying them for a crime. He didn't take it seriously. He was kind of, from the tone of the letter and basically the arguments that he uses, he was trying to cover for them, in my opinion. And it turns out that his son also worked in the same office as McMichael. So Barnhill ended up having to recuse himself as well because Arbery's mother pointed that out and pointed out rightly that there was a conflict of interest. But anyway, he wrote in the letter that there is insufficient probable cause to issue arrest warrants at this time. And he defends this by saying that they were in hot pursuit of a burglary suspect with solid firsthand probable cause. Now, he hadn't committed a crime. Arbery, if that's him in the video, he didn't commit a crime. He ran into a construction site for less than 2 minutes and ran out. That is, in my opinion, that's not even really much of a reason to even call the police. I'm not really into just calling police on especially on Black people in certain areas, just for no reason. At least that first neighbor wasn't trying to take matters into his own hands. He just called the police. Okay, fine. The police may have come and just talked to him and said, okay, well, you're not really doing anything wrong, so whatever. But anyway, Georgia law says that in order to do a citizen's arrest, which is what Barnhill is claiming here, that's how he's trying to defend the McMichaels. A crime has to have been committed in front of you, or you have to have immediate knowledge of a crime that was just committed. In this case, neither of those scenarios are present. They didn't have immediate knowledge of a crime because there was no crime. So to give an example of where that might apply, I think, and I'm not a lawyer, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it would apply here. But if you remember the church shooting in Sutherland Springs a couple of years ago, that was stopped by a man with an AR-15. Well, he heard the gunshots. That was an immediate knowledge of a crime. He came out, saw that the guy was shooting people. The guy shot at him, and he started shooting back. Okay, so that was a citizen who actually ended up driving to chase the mass shooter and to stop him. So in that instance, he would have been within his rights. So basically, Barnhill recuses himself, and it seems like after that, nothing's going on until the video surfaces, earlier last week, or earlier this week, I guess. But so basically, the new prosecutor, Tom Durden, basically looked at the details of the case and said, "I'm going to refer this to a grand jury because it's necessary in this case." And and the men have been arrested. They were arrested on Thursday. They were denied bail on Friday. And so we're going to see where it goes from here. But now more details are starting to come out. Now, one second. All right. So, in reviewing the case, I mean, you can easily see that there was no reason for the McMichaels to take the actions that they did. And the really infuriating part of this is that there are plenty of areas along the line here where the McMichaels could have avoided this outcome. When they saw Arbery running past their house, they could have got on the phone and called the police, called it a day. That's it. At the very most, they could have followed him from a safe distance and called the police. But even when they started chasing him, they could have realized, you know what, maybe we should just step back, call the police, and let them take care of it, tell him where he is, and go home. They chose not to do that. They put Arbery in a situation where he had a fight or flight mechanism there. And I've heard people say, well, he died because he attacked a man with a gun. Okay, so there are two types of people making this argument. The first are morons, basically. These people just want to blame him for what happened to him, and that's it. They're saying that this was self-defense because he attacked them while they were chasing him and then approaching him with a shotgun. Any sane person is going to feel threatened by that. So that's the first one, the moron who's just trying to divert from what's happening here. The second type are people who actually maybe wish that he would have ran because maybe he would have been alive today. They're talking about more from a survival perspective. They're not saying, oh, he was wrong to attack because he just shouldn't have done it. No, maybe, I mean, for all he knew, maybe he would have missed if he would have shot at him. I'm not sure how that would have gone down. We can never know. And if you're in a situation like that, in that moment, you don't know if the guy's going to miss or not. So he probably just went for the least worst option. And we all know how it went. So now we need to kind of think about the response to what happened to Ahmaud Arbery. On the right, like I said before, the response was overwhelmingly against the McMichaels. And basically I saw tons of people on social media that some of them were being even harsher than I was. I mean, they want these people in jail, or they're calling for the death penalty. There's not a whole lot of people trying to whitewash this and pretend like Arbery did something wrong. Because a lot of them are saying, even if he had been involved in a burglary, let's say I saw one guy say, I don't care if he stripped all the copper, silver, and whatever from the building and had it on his back running away, he didn't deserve what happened to him. And it didn't give them the right to do what they did. But when it comes to the Black conservative establishment, the response was pretty egregious. I'll put it that way. We had a conversation on this last night, and I'll put the link to that conversation in the notes here. But basically, Hotep Jesus, myself, Antonia Okafor, Sharice Lane, Maj Toure, Sir Michael Singleton. I don't want to forget anybody. Jonathan Thrower. And Neville Doyley. That's right. I had to make sure I got everybody. And also Angela Stanton King. We talked about this issue, and a lot of what we talked about was how Black conservatives reacted to this. These are people, these are the people that conservatives lift up as the leaders of the Black conservative movement. Now, you guys are familiar with me, so you know these people don't represent me in any way, shape, or form. But their response was about as bad as can be expected. Although there were some points of positivity here. So, I mean, some tried to obfuscate the issue, like Brandon Tatum made a video saying, oh, well, we can't know what happened because we weren't there, which is a brain dead argument. I wasn't there when 9/11 happened, but I can still form an opinion on it. I formed an opinion on it when it happened, before all of the facts came out. So it's a silly argument. We do have facts that we can look at. And that's one argument that people are making. Well, we need to wait for all the facts to come out before forming our opinion. I'll address that in a second. Jesse Lee Peterson came out and he claimed that he was sure that there were more facts that will explain this further. Like, he's basically hoping that facts come out that he can use to justify what these men did. And now that the video has come out of him going, or somebody who looks like him going into that house and coming out, I know the play he's going to make, because he's old school. He's been doing this for decades. None of this is new. These are the same tactics that the establishment conservative movement has been using since I was in my early 20s and before that. Now, Diamond and Silk called for justice for Ahmaud Arbery. They celebrated when the two men were arrested. Got no issue with them. I was glad to see that. Same with Rob Smith from TPUSA. He ended up making a video talking. Part of it was taking issue with what LeBron James tweeted, but he didn't focus too much on that. And honestly, I thought LeBron James' tweet was emotional and silly. But he did condemn the two men for what they did, and he called out the injustice of it. Larry Elder responded by getting mad at LeBron James. Now, just to give you an idea, the tweet, LeBron James basically says, oh, all Black people are getting hunted every single day, yada, yada, yada. I'm sure he was angry, he was upset, and he tweeted emotionally. And when people tweet emotionally, they say stupid things. And that was a stupid thing to say. I don't agree with what he said. We're not being hunted every single day, every time we step out of our house. If Black people actually believe that, we would be behaving a lot differently. But basically, Larry Elder's response was to get mad at that tweet and point out all the usual Black crime statistics, yada, 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 what they always do to distract from what's happening now. So basically, he was more upset at LeBron James for posting a silly tweet than he was at these two men for killing a Black man for no good reason. And as of this video, I haven't seen him post anything about the killers. He's only talked about LeBron James. CJ Pearson, awesome. He called it out when it happened. I'll give him his props. I'll give credit where it's due. He called out the injustice of it. He called out conservatives who were trying to defend it. I have no problem with him. Candace Owens took a long time to respond, and she has been saving up those tweets. She basically posted a series of tweets trashing the Black community like usual. She called Black culture a joke. She did the Black crime statistics again, and then she started bringing up. Her and Tatum actually did this, but she did it more. She actually did like a collage of Black children who have been killed by basically Black on Black crime. So she responded to this by using little dead Black children to try to distract from what happened to Arbery. But that wasn't even all. She also claimed that Arbery was a criminal. She said that his own mother said that he was in the house. Now, I don't know if she actually said it or not. I remember his mother saying that it's possible that he could have been. But she basically said that he was a burglar and that he was caught burglarizing homes. That is a lie, because he was not. According to the news reports, the police have never linked Ahmaud Arbery to a single burglary. So she's not the only one peddling that lie, but she's one of the biggest. So, I mean, we already know that she doesn't have a problem being dishonest when it comes to certain things. She also doesn't have a problem using dead children to promote her narrative. She did it with the COVID-19 thing. There was a little Black girl that died in relation to COVID-19, and she used that death to say, no, that wasn't what she died from. She was lying again, because that was an issue with her. But that's another story for another time. So overall, the response was lacking. I'll put it nicely. And I think what we as conservatives need to realize is that the Black conservatives that Conservative Inc. is propping up, they're not doing what they say they're doing. They're not reaching Black voters. They're repelling them. They will have you thinking that because they have these events that tons of Black people show up, they don't. And why would they? How can a Black conservative leader lead Black Americans to the right by saying that Black culture is a joke and constantly talking about how horrible Black people are? It's never going to happen. And in my opinion, it's not intended to happen. And that's a lot of what we talked about last night. What can actual Black conservatives do to basically, because we have to do multiple things. We want to change minds in the Black community, but we have to change minds in the Republican Party and in the conservative movement first. Lawrence B. Jones was talking about this on Sonny's Corner, on Sonny Johnson's radio show earlier today. He's like, how can I invite Black people to come over to the conservative side when we've got stuff like this going on here with people just blatantly lying about the Black community and bashing them at every opportunity? And if you guys know a lot of the myths that they peddle that I've debunked before, and I'll be doing videos to debunk the rest of them. But it's a real problem, because how can we expand the movement? How can we fight socialism if we're only going to reach out to one group of Americans? You know, Sir Michael Singleton brought this up last night, and he's written an article on it for the Washington Examiner. The demographics are changing. Whether they like it or not, the demographics are changing, and in not too long from now, the Republican Party will be obsolete if they don't change their approach, if they don't actually start making an actual effort to reach Black and Hispanic voters. Right now, they're not. In my opinion, and I said this last night, the old guard of the GOP does not want Black people in the party. They don't want Black candidates, and they don't want Black votes. And they've shown this much by elevating the Black conservative establishment. Because keep in mind, these people aren't new. They didn't come up with this messaging. They didn't come up with calling Black people slaves and insulting them and pretending like they're all lazy who just want to be on welfare and get free stuff. This messaging has been around for 20, 30, 40, even up to 60 years. They've just recycled the people that they're using to market that message. So it's important that conservatives like us, Black, white, and brown, speak out against this. People who are outside of the conservative movement need to see that not all Black conservatives think the way these people do. Now, this isn't anything against them personally. I don't hate them. You've never seen me call them names. I don't denigrate character. I will criticize behavior, and I will come after that hard, and I always will. I'm not into personality. I'm into principle. Principle over personality. Truth over narrative. So that being said, it's important to acknowledge the arguments being used by the people on the right who are trying to justify what these people did. There's a lot of silly arguments from people on the right who are basically either trying to distract from what happened, downplay what happened, or in a lot of cases out and out justify it. So here's one of the silly arguments I've seen. We can't form an opinion because we don't have enough information. Now, a lot of these people are basically acting as if the video is the only piece of information that we have on this case, and that's not true. Now, I think a lot of people are saying this because they just didn't know that there was other information, so I give some the benefit of the doubt. But the reality is that, like, this happened on February 23rd. It's been over 2 months. This story has been out there. We just haven't heard about it because it wasn't getting much attention. It was the video that got attention on it. We already had McMichael's testimony to the police report. We already had the news reports that talked about it. They were already out there. So when people say, well, this video looks bad, but but I don't know what happened before. You know, they love to say that. Well, I need to know what happened 30 minutes before this video was shot. Well, you know what? We already had that information. So to those people, I just say, read the reports, because a lot of them just didn't know that they were there. That's why I wrote the article that I wrote on it, because I knew that people would focus only on the video and not really try to find out what happened. Now, some of these people just don't want to know what happened because it'll contradict their narrative and cause cognitive dissonance, which is one of the biggest influencers in political thought right now. And that'll be something I do another video on. But a lot of people that believe these crazy things believe it because they want to avoid cognitive dissonance. So they will spin whatever tale they have. They will come up with whatever form of mental gymnastics that they need if they're going to still have their beliefs be affirmed, rather than being open to new information. So as far as the whole information thing, I mean, that one's easy to debunk. We already have enough information. We may not have every single detail. There's going to be more information that comes out, but I find it highly unlikely that there's going to be any details that come out that justify what these men did. So in my opinion, we already have enough information, and we'll just have more that'll flesh everything out and give us a better idea of what happened. So the second one, and this one we all know and love, but black on black crime though. How many times have you heard people say that anytime a black man is unjustly killed? Well, but what about black on black crime? That's what Candace Owens was doing when she was using the deaths of basically the dead bodies of those children to distract from Ahmaud Arbery. Now, this is something that the Black conservative establishment has done for decades. It is one of their oldest tactics. And it is a tactic because keep in mind, this is not a sincere concern for inner city crime. Now, some of them it is. I mean, I'm not saying that this applies to everybody, but in most cases, you're not going to see them talk about inner city gang violence unless it's in a situation where a white man kills a black person, or a police officer shoots an unarmed black man, or if anybody brings up racism. Now they want to talk about black on black crime. Now, black on black crime or inner city crime, gang violence, whatever you want to call it, it is an important issue because I don't want to see my people living in areas where there's a lot of crime. I want to see that problem solved. Half of the homicide victims in the United States are us. So I do see that as a serious issue. I lost my cousin to that. And I'm sure other black people have lost more family members and friends than I have. It's tragic when it happens. But it doesn't mean that we should ignore situations like Ahmaud Arbery. Two things can be true at once. Gang violence is horrible and tragic. Also, the death of Ahmaud Arbery and other black men who have died in similar circumstances, that is also tragic. Yes, I know that the media only focuses on one of those aspects. I can't control that. I can just control how I react to it. I've written articles on black men being unjustly murdered. I've also written about gang violence and the efforts that people are making to curb gang violence, which brings me to the next myth that they love to peddle. When a black person shoots another black person, nobody cares. That's another myth that they peddle. Actually, ABL, Anthony Brian Logan, was peddling this myth as well. He came out and he wanted to focus more on, and actually I will say that he didn't try to defend what the men did. He actually, cast that in a negative light, but then he just pivoted to the distraction, black on black crime. Well, he brought that security guard that died because he told the lady that she had to have a face mask on. Okay, he's right. That's tragic, but it shouldn't be a tool. It shouldn't be a rhetorical tactic that you use to push an agenda. The reality is that black people do care about black on black crime. Now, they may not refer to it as black on black crime, but the establishment conservative movement has been telling white conservatives and other black conservatives that in general, black people don't care about gang violence or other types of crime in their communities. That's also a lie. If you were to do a simple Google search, you would find hundreds, maybe even thousands of organizations across the country that are specifically designed to curb gang violence. These are organizations that have outreach efforts to at-risk youth. These are people who create youth centers to get people off the streets. These are people who invest in communities to create jobs to lessen the likelihood that somebody might join a gang. These are organizations that work with police departments to brainstorm ways to decrease crime in neighborhoods. There's been varying success. Some have been more successful than others. You also have like stop the violence rallies that happen in numerous places across the country, and you will never see media coverage of it, except maybe at the local level. There's a reason for that. The media does not want you to know that this happens. And I'm talking about both media, conservative and left wing. Left wing doesn't want people to see that Black people are trying to take this on themselves and not just relying on the government to take care of it. Right wing media doesn't want you to see it because it goes against their narrative that Black people don't care about Black on Black crime and they just want to be reliant on welfare and just talk about racism all day. Both sides have an agenda. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. Being red pill doesn't mean that you wake up to what the left is doing to deceive you. Being red pill means understanding that all media lies to you. And now I'm not talking about every single journalist and every single outlet, but I'm talking about in general. The media lies to you regardless of political affiliation. So the reality is that Black people do care about Black on Black crime and are working hard to stop it. And in a lot of areas like Chicago, their homicide rates have decreased for the third year in a row. And you would think that conservatives would be happy about that. A lot are. When I wrote an article about that, I got pushback. Like they just didn't want to believe it. Well, okay, whatever. Don't complain about Black people not coming to the Republican side then. The people who lie about this and say that Black people don't care are basically, they're showing contempt for the people that are working hard to stop this. Dang it. All right, I'm still going. I thought my computer died. All right, back. So the next myth would be Arbery's criminal record. Ahmaud Arbery was arrested once about 6 years ago for bringing a gun into a high school basketball game, and he was arrested for shoplifting in 2018, so I guess that means he deserves to die. At least according to the Sesame Streeters who are trying to justify his murder. For obvious reasons, that's bunk. Nothing he did in the past has anything to do with what happened to him. Another myth was Arbery was on video burglarizing homes. We've already addressed that. He's never been tied to a single murder by the police. So unless you have some tips that the police don't have, maybe you should call the local police department if you know something that they don't. Ahmaud Arbery is not guilty of any burglary. Then they bring up, Arbery attacked Travis McMichael. This is one of the main ones that they're using, and it's pretty asinine. These two men were chasing Arbery in their trucks, trying to cut him off multiple times. They even admitted that to the police. They got in front of him. He couldn't get away from them. Fight or flight. It's easy. It's easy to figure this out. It wasn't like Travis McMichael was just standing there, maybe getting ready to go hunting or something, and had no actual relationship with Arbery at all. No, he had already been chasing them. He didn't just attack him out of nowhere. Of course he did. Last one, and this one might be the most entertaining, but it's still pretty infuriating. It's just, this one is like a tragic level of stupidity. People are out here claiming that Ahmaud Arbery had a hammer, had stolen a hammer from the house and threw it on the ground. And that's why he deserved to die, because he stole a hammer. Or some of them are trying to argue that he was going to use it against them. And like he's going to just turn into Thor all of a sudden and start shooting lightning at him. And what they're doing is that they're breaking down the video and they're zooming in on this object that is on the ground that could be anything. I mean, it's not even definitively a hammer. It's just an object that's laying on the ground. But here's the thing, and I'll put a link to this video in the show notes as well. There was another video where they slowed it down and put a circle on that object, and you can see that it was already there before he even got there. So there's absolutely no way that he could have just thrown the hammer down. It was already there. That would mean that he would have to have stolen it, gone to that exact spot, put it down, came back, got chased, and then ran up to it. That's ridiculous. But along with the hammer theory, there's also the theory that he was wearing Timberland boots. And again, they played with the video to make it look like this. If you look at the video and zoom in on his feet, he's wearing running shoes. And the people saying that he's wearing boots, they know he's not wearing boots. They know that he's not wearing, they know that he wasn't wearing boots. They know that there was no hammer. These people are just out and out liars. I mean, maybe like 2% of them actually believe it. The rest, they know what they're doing. Now, and this is the element on the right that we need to fight. It is this element that the Black conservative establishment is appealing to. This is who Owens goes after. These are the people that Jesse Lee Peterson wants to support. These are the people that the Black conservative establishment is there for. But the thing is that this element has been minimized over the years. They've gotten older as younger people have come up and been more open to hearing something else. But they're still out there and they're still loud. So just to conclude, I mean, we know that what happened with Ahmaud Arbery was a tragedy, right? And I think that the conversation that we're having about it, especially on the right, is long overdue. The conversation that we had last night was long overdue. This was going to happen at some point, no matter what. It's going to keep happening. I mean, we're already talking about doing other broadcasts because it's important. It's important for a few reasons. The Black conservative establishment needs to be repudiated. I don't think that they need to be deplatformed. I'm fine with them having a voice. But my issue is that those are the only voices that Conservative Inc. wants you to hear. And that's by design. They don't want you to hear from people like us because they have a specific goal in mind. They have a specific viewpoint on the Black community that they want conservatives to have. That's why conversations like these are important. They can't squash all of our voices. We have alternative media, we have YouTube, we have social media, we have a lot of different ways to get the message out. So that's one reason why it's important. We need to get our ideas out there as far as how the Republican Party should be messaging to the Black community, about how the Republican Party needs to start talking to Black people in the first place. These are the things that we're trying to bring to the table and figure out the best ways to get this into the zeitgeist of the conservative movement. We need a whole paradigm shift in conservative thought when it concerns the Black community and also other minority communities as well. The other reason why it's important is because Americans who are not a part of the conservative movement need to see this. I can't count the number of times I've had Black people who vote Democrat but probably lean more conservative. I can't tell you how many times I've had people say to me, I can't believe that I'm seeing a Black conservative actually speaking up for Black people. And a lot of them will say, you know what? I would vote for Republicans because I agree with a lot of what they say, but I can't vote for a party that doesn't want me. I can't vote for a party that talks down about me. I can't vote for a party that doesn't like me. You can't have Black conservative leaders lead Black people to the Republican Party when they don't even like Black people. Like, that doesn't even make sense. So that's another reason why it's important to have these conversations so that people outside of the movement can see, well, wait a minute, Black conservatives aren't all Candace Owens. They're not all Jesse Lee Peterson. They're not all Brandon Tatum. They have their voices. I may not like theirs, but I like what these other guys are saying. They need an alternative. So that's pretty much it for today. But if you're still watching, thank you so much for watching this. This is, again, my first YouTube video. I've done live videos before, but I'm going to keep doing these, and I'll be getting better at it, and I'll be tightening it up. If you have any suggestions, or if you have any questions, or if you have anything that you want me to talk about, then hit me up on Twitter or through the messages on YouTube. And also, please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button right now. I want to see you doing it. Are you doing it? hit that bell too, so that when I do upload stuff, you'll see it. And you guys have a wonderful Saturday.